Well, good morning, Montgomery College. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. I'm Dr. Mike Mills, Vice President of E-Learning, Innovation, and Teaching Excellence. I want to welcome you to this panel discussion that kicks off the Spring 2021 Professional Day events. During this discussion, moderated by my colleague, Professor Shinta Hernandez, we will hear the voices of both faculty and students as they talk about best practices for teaching and learning in accelerated courses. They will talk about course design, time management, and the need for patience and empathy. I am sure you will agree that it's going to be engaging and enlightening. At 11 this morning, Dr. Paul Miller, Professional Development Director, will lead a second panel discussion on best practices of having conversations around social justice. With all the angst and political rhetoric in our midst, having social justice conversations in and out of the classroom is critical to our well-being. It benefits us all to understand where others are coming from and the issues that exist, and I hope you can join us for that conversation as well. I want to thank Kimberly Jones and Lisa Hackley from Student Life for providing our student panelists for both panels. Their work has been phenomenal. And before I turn the reins over to Professor Hernandez, I want to recognize our indigenous ancestors and the lands on which they lived. Our campuses are located on land once inhabited by the Piscataway. In Delaware, where I am, the Nanticoke lived. In fact, the Nanticoke continue to call this area home. And with that, let me welcome Professor Hernandez.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mills. And wow, good morning, MC. I'm so pleased to see many of you here on Zoom this beautiful Thursday morning. And thank you for that land acknowledgement, Dr. Mills. I am Shinta Hernandez. I am the Department Chair of Sociology, Anthropology, and Criminal Justice at the Rockville and Tacoma Park Silver Spring campuses. And I'm just so honored to facilitate this particular panel discussion on best practices in teaching and learning in our accelerated courses. Now, as many of you know, we've been offering shorter term or accelerated courses across many disciplines for many years. We've got the 5-week summer sessions, the 3-week regular winter sessions, extended winter 5-week sessions, and then of course the 7-week sessions that are traditionally offered during fall and spring semesters. And what we're doing here is we're increasing the number of 7-week terms this spring 2021 because of the pandemic. It's really to help our students and frankly, to help our faculty juggle so many of the things that have gone on in our lives as a result of the pandemic and everything else. So this is definitely not new for many Montgomery College faculty and students. And I also just want to reiterate the messages we've been hearing throughout Professional Week this week, that we are not moving into a 7-week only institution. We are offering our students multiple options. So what you'll hear this morning from our panelists, as I mentioned, is our best practices in teaching and learning, specifically in accelerated courses. But what I think you'll find and discover is that these strategies can be easily translated into the 15-week formats, the fully asynchronous DL courses, your synchronous SRT remote courses, and even your face-to-face courses. In this panel, we'll highlight each of the faculty members' best practices in online pedagogy, discipline-based pedagogy, student engagement strategies, and academic supports in their accelerated courses, whether they're DL or SRT. And we're also excited to share the students who will talk to you about their best learning strategies that they've used in the accelerated courses that have made them successful. And they're also going to share some words of wisdom with all of you that I think perhaps faculty and staff can take back to students about how to continue balancing school and home and work during these unprecedented times. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the panelists forward for introductions. And so when I call on you panelists, please tell us your name, your discipline if you're a faculty member, or your major if you're a student, and a fun fact that you want to share. And then once we're done with introductions, we'll get going with the panel showcase. So let me first start off by introducing Dr. Lauren Lippiello.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Lauren Lippiello. I teach anthropology and history at Rockville and soon to be Germantown beginning this semester. Fun fact about myself, my 4-year-old is dying to come into my office and photobomb. She can't wait to see herself on yet another video call. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Lauren, and welcome. Next up, we have student Anna Baide.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Baide, and I'm a CS major at Montgomery College. A fun fact about me is that I'm actually an international student at Montgomery College from Honduras.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome. Next up, we have Dr. Aubrey Smith.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Aubrey Smith from the biology department at the Rockville campus. Fun fact, even though my name is Aubrey Smith, which is very English sounding, I don't speak English all that well. I'm a native French speaker and I'm still learning English.
Thank you, Aubrey, and welcome. We have next up student Lucy Ngokwe.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucy Ngokwe, majoring in business administration. A fun fact about me is I love Korean music and I speak French fluently.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lucy. And we also have Professor LaKisha Nickens-Gaither.
Hello, everyone. I'm LaKisha Nickens-Gaither. I'm from the Health Enhancement, Exercise Science, Mental Health, and Physical Education Department. That's a lot. A fun fact about me is that I was that annoying person yesterday dressed in Howard gear from head to toe watching the inauguration.
That's excellent. Thank you, LaKisha, and welcome. And thank you, all of you, for being here. I just have one more piece of housekeeping to share. Dr. Mills and I will monitor the chat, and we will dedicate the last 10 to 15 minutes to a Q&A. We'll try our best to answer all the questions. If we cannot, the panelists have graciously offered their email addresses at the end. They're going to put it in the chat bot so that you can directly ask them questions at a later time. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right, so Dr. Lauren Lippiello, you are up and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So I'm just going to share my screen with you here. This is a very brief PowerPoint, but if you have questions later, I'm happy to open up one of the courses and sort of navigate you around how I go about setting up our both online as well as face-to-face courses. So as I talk to you today, I want you to remember that this is not only best practices in terms of structure, flexibility, and accountability for online courses or 7-week courses, but it's best practices for any course, both face-to-face as well as hybrid and any kind of remote learning that we're offering now. So you can really include all of these different mechanisms in any of those course modalities. First and foremost, include a Start Here learning module. I know a lot of you already probably do that. This is important because it allows the students to begin the course and navigate around. And in that Start Here learning module, there are a couple of really important pieces. First and foremost, the welcome announcement. This should go out also as an email. And in that welcome announcement, include what type of class this is going to be. Even though Montgomery College has done an excellent job explaining to students the different modalities, I find that students still have questions about this. 3 weeks into an online only course, I'll get students who ask, why don't we have any lectures? So always remember that students, regardless of how well Montgomery College has done educating the population, students will still have questions. So clear that up as the very first thing in this welcome announcement, as well as an email that goes out to the students. Ask them to send you back a confirmation email. And for those students that don't respond, reach out to them individually. This also goes towards accountability for students. So very often, if I don't get an email response from students, sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and give them a text or a call. I find that that really helps to encourage students to participate in the class. Include your contact information in that first announcement as well. I always include my cell phone number. I know a lot of you may not be comfortable with that. There are ways of getting around that, disguising your cell phone number, either through Google or other mechanisms, and you can reach out to your department chairs. But including that piece of information, that source of contact information, which is by and large how students communicate, will go a really long way to opening up that stream of communication. And I find that I often get more interaction with students now as I compared to before when we were face-to-face and I had office hours. No one ever comes to office hours, but I will always get a text from a student. So consider doing that. I also include a bio. I'm sure a lot of you do this. It just introduces yourself to the students. It creates a rapport. I also include in the Start Here Learning module a description of all of the assignments for the semester. And this really allows the students to help plan out their semesters. So it leads towards our idea of accountability. If students know ahead of time, then they can better prepare themselves for the assignments they're going to have to turn in. And that goes along with creating rubrics. So letting the students not only know what the assignments are, but how they're going to be graded. All of this goes in that Start Here Learning module. I tend to include this information in my syllabus as well. Now, a point about syllabi. Syllabuses are upward 15, 20 pages sometimes now with all the content we have to include. So I always have students in that very first learning module complete a quiz. This quiz essentially tests their knowledge on the syllabus. All of the really important information that they need to take away from that document. So how to get in touch with your instructor, where to find the answers to quizzes or discussion board essays, what the late work policy is, what your policy on plagiarism is. These are just some of the ideas. So I try to create maybe a 5 to 10 question quiz. This not only gets the students immediately engaged in the first week of classes, but it also ensures that they understand what the layout of the course is going to be, what the parameters of the course are going to be. I'd also like to talk to you a little bit about flexibility. I've tried this strategy multiple times in various different college settings, and I find that students really appreciate having the ability to pick and choose the assignments they're going to complete. Now, this doesn't mean that you are reducing the amount of content. Of course, they're responsible for all of that information on a final exam or on a midterm exam. But in terms of essays that they need to write or quizzes they need to complete, I usually give them an option of completing 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 13, for example. And this allows them, again, to take responsibility of their own schedules. You don't need to make that moral judgment or ethical judgment whether or not someone should have an excused absence or be excused from an assignment. Instead, you can allow them to take ownership of their schedules. So being flexible in terms of the number of assignments that you need to accept per semester, or grading quizzes for completeness but not correctness may go a long way to not only establishing a rapport with your students, but avoiding all of those emails that I'm sure we all get in our inbox. Oh, can I have a 24-hour extension? Oh, you know, I wasn't able to do this. Can I get a week extension? This essentially avoids that by including that aspect of flexibility. Finally, I want to chat to you about student accountability. How can we help students be more accountable? Our jobs as professors are not just as subject matter experts, but also we are by and large teaching people how to become adults. And along with that goes teaching people accountability. So how can we help students be more accountable? We can post announcements. We can send those announcements out as emails. I tend to send about 2 or 3 announcements per week, more if the class is accelerated. And if those students don't respond, I typically try to email or call or text students who haven't been checking their Blackboard pages. I would also encourage you to create a calendar tool. This is something you have to add to your courses, but it helps the students see in a glance what they have, all of their deadlines for your course set out for the month. I would also encourage you as an instructor to be accountable. So it's not just helping the students be accountable, but how can I be more accountable to my students? First and foremost, turn your grades around quickly. Even in an accelerated, or especially I should say in an accelerated format, you should be turning grades around in 48 hours. In a 15-week format, that would be like 5 business days. So we want to turn those grades around fast, and that allows the students to adjust how their progress is in the class. I would also encourage you to add the My Grades tool on your course menu. This allows students to read your feedback So second idea here, provide feedback on assignments. I'm sure most of us do that already, but that My Grades tool allows students to quickly check their grades as well as the comments that you make back to them. And finally, I'm sure a lot of us already know this, but set your class up completely before the semester begins. Again, this allows us to be accountable to our students, and it allows the students to better prepare themselves before the semester begins. Those are all my comments. I know that this is a very short presentation, but I'm happy to take more questions at the end or shoot me an email later. Thanks very much for your attention.
Lauren, thank you so much. Just a couple of remarks I have as I'm writing things down is, I really appreciate the very comprehensive the SMART module that you have, Start Here module, because that really allows faculty and students to start successfully. And I also appreciate in the chat bot that many of you are sharing strategies along the way. Please continue doing that. We're learning from one another in many different ways here. So this is great. Thank you, Lauren. All right, so next up, we have our student, Anna Baide.
Can I ask a question before you proceed?
We are asking that we hold off questions.
Okay.
Or you could put it in the chat if that's better, and then we can answer the question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anna, go ahead.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Anna. As I already mentioned, I'm actually a student at Montgomery College. And today I'll be presenting some tips basically for students so that you can keep organized while studying accelerated pace courses. So first of all, just a reminder for students when they see this recording that accelerated pace courses not necessarily mean that you will complete half of the work in half of the time. You still have to complete all of the work, it's just you have half of the time. So another thing, here are the basic steps that everyone knows, that they always tell you this at the beginning of the semester: check your schedule, have a calendar, track tasks, take notes, and try to always have all your assignments on time. But sometimes we can kind of forget about this, or sometimes students don't stress much attention about it, or don't have the resources, or don't know where to look at. So this is kind of what this presentation is mostly about. So another thing that I wanted to mention is that I will show many examples today. Not all of them work for everyone. You just have to take what works for you. And we all learn in different ways. We all have different ways of adapting and getting information. So don't get overwhelmed by all the examples I'll be showing you today. So let's get started with many of the resources, especially I just wanted to stress out first the syllabus part. So I want to thank Dr. Benita Parker for sharing her syllabus with me so that I could show you a little bit about the information that's important in the syllabus. So I took this as a summer class. It was a distance learning. So we had, we didn't actually meet, but it was just a 3-week course. So things you really need to pay attention to is, for example, office hours, especially in a short accelerated pace course, because if you need help, you want to get help as soon as possible. Also, if it has location, the final class date, and also something really important is that the shorter the class, the more weight an assignment has towards your final grade. So you don't want to be finding out at the end of the semester that an assignment was half of your final grade and you did not do it. So it's really important that you pay attention. All professors have this sort of table in different ways, in different forms, but just so you are sure that you're staying on top of the main assignments that you need to do to be successful in the course. Then another thing that I like about this syllabus, and then most professors include, is kind of this weekly module in which you can see what assignments are due each week or what chapters will be covered. This is really helpful. You can print it out, save it in your computer in a folder, or even have it in an online drive available so that you can always just see it and be kind of like, I will print it out sometimes and I will just mark an X in the chapters I already read or in exams I already complete. And this helps out really with your own organization. And it's kind of a gift that professors have already give us, like a syllabus, like condensated information about the whole course. So now a second thing I want to talk about is just some resources for schedules. So this is the first resource. So here you have Canva. As you see, this really aesthetically pleasing looking calendar. I do have to say that Canva, if you are not familiarized with it, it might be a little bit hard to use, but it looks really nice. There are many templates that you can use, and if you follow the tutorial, it should be fine. But then if you're saying you want something more easy, you don't want to complicate yourself, then this free college schedulemaker.com. So here, all you do is just plug in all the information, and then it automatically does this format for you. You can edit it, you can change it, you can have it in your computer, you can even print it out. And it's really simple. It really helps you out with the kind of the day structure so that you don't have to worry about where the boxes go. Then another thing that I have, and especially with this online learning, is that you can also have just a sticky note in your computer or an actual sticky note nearby so that you can see what classes you have at what time. The nice thing about this type of schedule is that you can just click the Zoom link every morning. That way you don't have to log into MIMC, My Blackboard, and then you get to the link until the end. So you can just click it here, and then you'll get to your class the first thing you see in your computer. So then next thing I have, and I'll be just talking more a little bit just in a second, it's about the Google Calendar. So you can also have a Google Calendar for your classes. And the good thing about Google Calendar is you can also put the link in each class for the Zoom link. And you can also have notifications that let you know 20 minutes before, 30 minutes before, depending on what you need. Some people use it as alarms to wake up every morning. You know, you can use it as you want. So now I'll be talking a little bit about the calendar a little bit more. So as you may know, you can use Google Calendar for many things. Oops, sorry, for today. So a good thing about Google Calendar is that you kind of see that Blackboard has this calendar, but sometimes it's really hard to access. So if you go to the calendar function here, where you'll usually see My Grades and just drop down, if you click the calendar and then you click Get External Calendar Link, you can just copy this link and then you go into your Google Calendar, and then if you click plus and then just create new calendar from URL, this will allow you to include your Google Calendar into your Blackboard calendar, which gives you, and you can even set up for notifications or whatever you need. And then this is mostly for STEM majors, but I know that other courses have, for example, WebAssign, Flipped Physics, Revel, and all this kind of online platforms where you have assigned homework. So I will always suggest you to check down on those calendars as well, because usually they have this link as well that you can just copy and paste into your Google Calendar. And that way you have all your assignments, all Blackboard, and then all your classes in one single place. And you can even add documents, and then you have the rubric of your essays. You can even have any other information that you might need, everything in one place, which makes it easier sometimes, especially when you need information as soon as possible. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about was about note-taking. So we all know the basics: OneNote, Keynote, Keep Notes from Google. There are many platforms, but today I come to you with this that for me was kind of new. I just learned about it a few months ago, which is this Notion.so. So the cool thing about Notion is the Notion allows you not only to have like the normal format you will have, so it has a lot of commands that allows you to do to-do lists. It allows you to have headings, bulletins. You can even toggle lists. You can even have an index at the beginning so that you click something and it will automatically take you to the link. You can quote, you can have dividers. And the cool thing about MSCS major, as I mentioned, is that you can even have code boxes. So this is a really cool feature for me because when I was note-taking in Word or in OneNote, I couldn't do this. So my code will not seem like it will normally see in a code platform. So this is like low line for me, and that's something that you might adapt even for your own major. And that's basically what I have for the note-taking part. And then if we go back to the presentation, you don't have to use Google Calendars. If you're more of a paper person, you can just download one in Pinterest. You can get one from your computer, buy a small notepad for Amazon, less than $5. And then, well, that was basically it. Sorry, I talk a little bit fast sometimes. But if you have any questions, and also we will be dropping all the links so that you don't have to worry about copying them in the chat box. And here's my email in case you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Anna, thank you so much. I know you didn't get a chance to look at the chat, but you should after I'm done here. A lot of kudos to you. And just so that you all know, a lot of you are asking about the student presentations. We will be pulling out, Elite will be pulling out the student presentations separately from the recording so that you could share it with your students, whether you want to put it into your Blackboard course site or share it some other way. So these will be made available to you to share. All right. Thank you so much, Anna. Wonderful. We have up next Dr. Aubrey Smith. Aubrey, the Zoom space is all yours.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, everybody. So like I said before, I'm Aubrey Smith, and I teach Biology 101, Biology 150, and microbiology. In Biology 101 and Biology 150, we emphasize the scientific method. In other words, how we acquire scientific knowledge. And in fact, we designed many really good lab experiments in which students actually come up with their own hypotheses and test them and reach their own conclusions and write a report. And we present the method as follows: observation, question, hypothesis, prediction, testing, conclusion. As if it's a very linear pathway to follow. And then we say later on that actually, the real method is a lot more complex, as you can see on the right side. There's insight, there's frustration, there's failure, even despair and depression, because your experiment is not working, because you can get your data. So we explain how the method is actually a lot more complex than its linear pathway. But we rarely show a real example of how this really works. I mean, we can talk about our own experiences in graduate school, but we really see a reality TV type scenario when it comes to the scientific method. Thankfully, a few years ago, PBS broadcast a show called Naturally Obsessed, which is about a graduate student who is trying to crystallize a protein. By that, I mean, he was trying to determine the protein structure and therefore its function. So the assignment that I designed around that video, I'm going to share with you guys right now. Just 1 second. Is within Blackboard, and I can't see anything. Just 1 second. Where's my Blackboard? Just 1 second. I need to. I think I've lost my screen.
Yeah, exit full screen. On Zoom, if you exit full screen, you'll see your Blackboard.
Okay, there it is. All right. Okay. There it is. Thank you. Okay. So what I ask my students to do is to watch the film. It's about 1 hour. And I ask them to answer these questions individually. So they have to submit an assignment. They have to submit a paper assignment in which they have to answer questions such as who's the main character, who's the principal investigator, who's the lab director, and whether they were successful or not. Just to see that they've actually watched the video. And I grade this assignment based on content, based on accuracy. Now, after they submit this assignment, to get full credit, they actually have to be part of an in-class discussion about this film. Now, I've noticed in the past that when I read their responses, I've noticed that some students notice certain things that others don't. For instance, the question number 13. What aspects of the film may illustrate inequities in science? So just to let you know, in the film, in the lab, there is only one woman, only one female graduate student. There are no people of color in the lab. This is at Columbia University. But I've noticed that some students realize that, well, there are some inequities in terms of gender and racial gaps. But then others only notice that maybe the lab director doesn't lend support equally among graduate students, right? So I want to see when they get together, I want to see whether those who notice a certain thing can share it with the others. So I would put them in groups, and I would ask them later on to come together back to the main room and discuss their findings. So I find this is a very, very nice assignment. It gives me a bit of a flashback in terms of watching this graduate student struggle to get data and eventually abandon his project multiple times because his experiments failed. And also realized in this assignment that at the end, when we come together with students to discuss the film, that you have to make certain points. For instance, somebody get the impression that science is just trial and error, right? Because the film doesn't show the details of what goes on in terms of individual experiments. So you have to come back and tell them, well, you know, they didn't show this, but this is how this experiment was designed and stuff like that. So I found that this was a very good assignment. It works very, very well, and it gets students talking and discussing what science is. In fact, these days we can see that people really need to be scientifically literate. Right? We need to know what science is. We need to know how knowledge is acquired. I also wanted to mention another thing. When I took the SRT course, I was a little bit skeptical, honestly, because I said to myself, you know, I know this stuff already. My class is pretty well organized. I have folders. I have folders within folders, right? But then, you know, as the training was going on, I heard the magic word, learning module, how to organize your content in Blackboard as learning modules. And that did it for me, honestly. So if you look at my first learning module, for instance, I have, you know, a bit of the objective, a bit of a video, you know, making a point that everything is chemistry. And, you know, I go on to list the assignments, and I made sure this is intentional to show minority scientists as images within my Blackboard page. I also have a start here. Start here learning module where I discuss how to access the course, and also I give an overview of the classroom, how the classroom is organized, et cetera, et cetera. Also, I've asked the professor discussion session, and then in my announcements, you know, I have more of the same, along with a picture of myself with my radiant Hollywood smile, according to me, anyway. So this is what I have. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to share my email with everybody if you have any questions. Thank you.
Aubrey, thank you so much. I especially liked your example of discipline-based pedagogy by showcasing one of the assignments that you use, having your students do a critique of the discipline itself. So we appreciate that. And I'm hoping that that offers us ideas about what we can also do in our classrooms. And I also appreciate the reflection and discovery that you had from your pre-SRT days to your post-SRT days, and how you've been able to utilize the training to enhance your teaching. Thank you so much for that. All right, so next up we have our student panelist, Lucy Ngokwe. Lucy, you're up.
Hello everyone, my name is Lucy Ngokwe, majoring in business administration. Today I'll be sharing with you guys some tips and advice on how to be successful in your accelerated classes. Next slide, please. So I will start off with the tips and end it off with some advice. The first tip I have for you guys is make use of videos lessons provided by professors. Knowing that we are going to be on Zoom and sometimes we might get frustrated and probably want to do like a review, we don't have a video to look back at. So I really advise students to like go back to your videos at your professors, because some professors don't record Zoom because of like some policy. So professors having these videos on their Blackboard site to help students enhance their learning is very beneficial. So in a kind of way that if we are not more in class and our Zoom session is over, you can easily go back to those videos and look at it and like study step by step. The next thing is participating in Kahoot games organized by professors. The Kahoot games is kind of like a review after each chapter, considering that professors take out the time to organize these Kahoot games. It will only be fair for us students to attend, but not only for the professor's benefit, but for our benefit as a review after each chapter, because the Kahoot games is like questions and answers, and you can find out that those questions, probably you were slacking on it. So it's kind of like a review for you to go back and look at your questions to answer. The next thing is attend tutoring. Knowing that the school provides these services for us to attend, it will always be considered first, but at times it might get stressed. So for example, an English class, you're given a paper to write, your professor gives you some remarks, you go back for tutoring, and the tutor gives you a different remark. It might get really confusing and frustrating knowing that you're going to take it to your professor and your professor is going to give you a different remark. But at the end of the day, they are two different people. They look at things from two different perspectives, but they are still trying to help you. So going for tutoring is just kind of like helping you improve your writing, not only for English, but for like other subjects. It's kind of like a one-on-one tutor that you can like talk to without your peers being there or scared of you being judged, which leads me to my next point, which is attend professor's office hours. I know some of us students might be scared to like ask questions in class or voice out our opinions, thinking we'll be judged by our classmates. So attending office hours is like a one-on-one session with your professor, which you can just ask your question without no fear and get them answered. And knowing that those office hours are there to help us students to come to our professors, it's really beneficial to go because you have like this one-on-one session with your professor. You can ask any questions. And you can come back anytime as long as you feel comfortable to. The next thing is, since we are both online, we all use email. What I do, and I think works for me as a student, is before the semester begins, like 1 week before, when professors have posted the course content and the syllables, I try to like email them, letting them know I will be in their class. I mean, it doesn't make me stand out, but it lets the professor know that I'm ready to begin the semester and I'm ready to like study. And one thing I think students don't usually do that makes them fall back is when professors post these syllables, they expect us to look at it probably a week before class begins, because it's kind of like a race that you're going into a race and you don't know what to expect. So the syllabus kind of like guides you, knowing that, okay, this is what we're doing in this class. Homework is this percentage, quizzes at this percentage, assignments at this percentage. So going through your syllabus and knowing what to expect in class makes you more ready. You don't want to be in class 3 weeks before and you're like, hold on, is this what we are going to do? Yeah, it was in the syllabus. So going through your syllabus as a student is very beneficial, and it makes you ready for the semester, knowing that, okay, this is what I'm expecting in this class. This is the number of hours I'm going to put in this class because it requires this amount of work. So going through all these processes and going through all these tips makes you more ready for the semester and makes your learning strategy improve. These are just some tips that worked for me, but I think more students can learn from it, considering that we'll have all have different ways of studying. So right now I'm going to jump up to the advice, which is, the first one is plan. Plan your schedule out. Plan out time for school, time for work, time for your personal life, like family. You don't want your schedule to be so congested in such a way that you don't get things done and you're like, oh, I have a lot of things to do. But like, I think planning it out makes it more easier. It makes it way easier. It makes your day a little bit stress-free. I know people say I go with the flow, but like sometimes going with the flow don't get all the work done. So planning it out makes it way easier. Like, okay, I have this time for school. Okay, this time for work and this time for your family. It makes your day more free and relaxed. The next thing is minimize. These things that most students don't understand, but like minimizing the number of credits you take each semester is very crucial. As for me as an international student, I'm not allowed to take more than 12 credits a semester, but I think taking 12 credits a semester is more reasonable. But knowing that we are all different students and our learning strategies are different, some people might take 16 credits and feel comfortable with it and still get good grades. But I also feel like minimizing the number of credits you take each semester goes with who you are. Even though you're probably a slow learner, it will be hard for you to take 16 credits. Probably taking 12 credits or 9 credits will be fair, knowing that you're going to do well in the classes. It's not just all about taking all these 12, 16 credits and getting grades like C's. You have to take this credit knowing that you're going to do well and get grades like A's and B's, because at the end of the day, these grades are going to matter in the long run. The next thing is balance. Balance your schedule out with a variety of classes. You don't just want to end up taking all science classes, or if you're a business major, filling up your semester with all business majors classes. Try to balance your schedule out, like you're taking a science class, an arts class, humanities class. So you get a variety, so you don't just look up each day and like, oh, I still have a science class. It gets really boring. So like balancing your schedule out to like different variety of classes, like taking a business class, an arts class, a science class, a humanities class, it's kind of you're looking forward to each subject each day. You're not just taking the same thing over and over and over and over and over. It's kind of like doing the same activity over and over and over, and it gets boring. The next thing is extracurricular activities. This is, I don't know, but having at least one extracurricular activities is very important for us as students, because at the end of the day, it's not just all about school. We need to focus on school and need our free time. So getting involved on campus, like joining clubs, student life, student senate, just trying to get your mind relaxed off school is very important, because at the end of the day, you're going to need all these extracurricular activities when you transfer. So why not have two in college? Like, why not just use the advantage and go to school and have extracurricular activities and have a good college experience? Because at the end of the day, we're not just coming here to learn, we're coming here to learn how to gain leadership skills and acquire leadership skills and stuff like that. So why not just do all of it in one and have like a fun college experience? Because at the end of the day, we're not just here to go to school. And the last thing is take some time off, like take probably a winter or a summer break off. I know some people want to like graduate because some things come into place like age and stuff like that. But like taking some time off gives you time to think about how the last semester was. How do you think you can do better in the next semester? And what are some strategies that did not work for you in the last semester that you think you can improve it in the next semester? So taking this time off to think and reflect on how your semester was, it makes you better, like you become a better person as a student. It's not just all about rushing your semester. Yeah, I mean, you need to graduate, but like take some time off to think about how your last semester was. Do you think you should improve on this? Or do you think probably in your biology class, you did not have enough time to study that you think, no, I need to like improve on this class? So it's taking some time off gives you time to recollect your thoughts and think about how your semester was and how you can make it better. So these are some tips and advice I have for students, and I know everybody has different ways of studying, but I think these are the common ones that we can all relate to. I will drop my email in the chat box, and thank you for your attention.
Lucy, that was wonderful. Thank you for all the very effective strategies that you've used in your class to help you be successful. Again, just like with Anna, when you get a chance, take a look at the chat. You're getting a lot of kudos, so we appreciate that. And we really like the succinct list you have. It almost can serve as a handy reference on our tables when we advise our students, whether you're a faculty advisor, a counselor, you can certainly take a look at those tips and advise our students appropriately. For any of you who want to learn more about Kahoot, Dr. Paul Miller is offering a workshop later today at 5 p.m. So if you're interested, please sign up on MC Learns via Workday for that workshop, plus other workshops that we have available to you today. All right, thank you, Lucy. Okay, so now we have Professor LaKisha Nickens-Gaither. LaKisha, all yours.
All right, good morning once again. So I'm LaKisha Nickens-Gaither, and so I've actually been teaching and learning in accelerated courses for 15 years now. So today I wanted to share with you some of the best practices that I've learned along the way in terms of teaching accelerated courses. I know many of you are want to get back to finishing your courses, so I'll try to keep it brief. So one of the things that I found useful was embedding academic support into the course in multiple places. So I find that students, when they become anxious about assignment or they have questions about an assignment, they may be reluctant to reach out to their professor. So having academic support links throughout the course, not only just MC resources, but other resources that are related to your content. So MC offers a lot of free resources to students, and many of them are not aware of those resources. So when we offer those resources in several different places, we're like a promoter in terms of academic support, learning centers. So having those resources in multiple places is very useful. So the first place is one in the syllabus, but also in the Start Here module. So the first place that the student go is into the Start Here module. So embedding those resources in the Start Here module is really important because that's the first thing that they see. They know what to expect and they know where to find what they're looking for. So as you can see here, I have important links, which goes to the Student Affairs website, which gives them the DSS links, Veteran Affairs links, anything that they may need along those lines. But I also have embedded what the resources that the student need for this particular course. So I'm in this course, Health 121, there's a writing assignment. So I've embedded the resources that the student will need for that assignment. And that's the APA citations, as well as if they need additional help, they can reach out to the Reading, Writing, and Language Center. The other thing I have embedded in here is the technical issues. So in this course, not only do we use Blackboard, but we also use McGraw-Hill Connect. So students, if they run into trouble, they know exactly where to go to get help by using the Start Here module. In addition to the Start Here module, I've also included those textbook resources as another module because there's plenty of videos for support. Instead of, if they don't want to call, they have videos for any item that may come up or issue that may come up as it relates to the textbook. So the next place that I've embedded resources is into the assignment instructions. So for this assignment, it's a two-part assignment. And so for the first part, they have to do a 3-day diet analysis using software through McGraw-Hill Connect. But with that 3-day diet analysis, I've actually included resources on what that they would need to collect that information. So serving size charts, there's some information to My Plate, so they can find more information on how to collect that data for their 3-day diet analysis. So in part 2 of this assignment, the student has to write the paper. And so the instructions are listed, but I also include those resources once again. So now they see it again, the APA guidelines and the link to the Writing, Reading, and Language Center if they actually need help. And so I found this to be useful because when students get anxious about assignments, like I said, they are reluctant to reach out to the professor, and then they're like, oh, I don't know where to find things. And so if they see it right there in the assignment, it makes it a lot easier. So other best practices that I want to share with you is the send reminder feature in Blackboard. So in Blackboard, for each assignment, you can actually click on the arrow, and in that drop box, there's a send reminder feature that sends an email to each student that has not completed that assignment. And so because we are in an accelerated course, it's we want to hold the students accountable, but we also have to remember that they're not just taking your course. And so just clicking that button doesn't take a lot of time. So what I find this to be useful is clicking that, sending the reminder to students for those assignments at least 1 or 2 days before that assignment is due. The other thing that I've found useful is making sure that I have consistent announcements regarding what the module expectations are for the semester and for each module. And then having clear assignment deadlines. So in an accelerated course, students, once again, are not just taking your course, but they're also balancing home and school. And so having those clear assignment deadlines is really important. So one of the things that I do is I have the same deadline or same due date each week for assignments. So students know that assignments in my course are due on Mondays and Thursdays. So that way they can plan their other courses, their study time around those deadlines. The other thing I've find useful is identifying at-risk students early. So students have to complete an orientation module in the course. And so students that don't log in or don't complete that orientation module, is really important to reach out to them right away to capture their attention, to see what's going on. And students that need extra help, you can direct them in which way they need to go. The other thing is providing a discussion lounge for student interaction. So students may have questions, and once again, they may not want to reach out to you. So having that discussion lounge, they can reach out to their classmates. So this is not monitored by the faculty member, but it's monitored monitored by the students. So the questions that they may have, other students can answer those questions, or maybe they want to share something that they learned or talk about a topic that they've learned in your course. And the last thing that I found useful is providing access to the entire course right away. It's 7 weeks or a 5-week course, and they need to plan out once again. And so if they have access to the entire course, they know what the expectations are. They know they can see or get a gauge of how much time it may take to complete assignments in your course. So I know everyone wants to get back to working on your courses. So I want to thank you for staying and listening to our presentations, and I want to wish you a good semester. Thank you.
LaKisha, thank you so much for all those strategies. Very useful. We especially like how you laid out the embedded support for the students and how it's consistently it's repetitive throughout, and also how you lay out the different parts of an assignment. I think that is offering many people in the audience some tips and strategies for how to effectively do that in their courses, especially as they're all preparing their syllabus or syllabi as we speak. One more thing I wanted to say is we actually don't have many questions, in part because the chat has been such a useful feature for many of us. A lot of you are asking questions and then you're addressing one another. So this is fantastic. It makes my job very, very easy. So I appreciate that. But I do have a question for the faculty panelists, whoever wants to chime in. In your accelerated courses, how do you handle assignments like group work? Or do you even?
I can answer it. The discussion board feature is really important, especially if the class is purely online. So again, regardless of if it's accelerated or not, I find that discussion board really helpful. So they'll have to post their initial response, and then they have to respond to another student or several other students, depending on the topics we're covering, and that helps to create some conversations back and forth. If it's a face-to-face class, obviously you can do that in the classroom, but I still require them to use discussion boards and respond to each other. So regardless of the format, and that's because some students don't feel comfortable addressing their classmates face-to-face, but they do feel comfortable in an online forum.
I also use discussions in biology, well, in all my biology courses. But I don't have weekly discussions. Instead, I have discussions based on unit. So I have 5 overall units in Biology 150 and Biology 101. So discussions are based on the unit rather than, weekly discussions.
We have another question here. So as I mentioned in my introduction, what you're hearing is essentially what faculty and students are suggesting for accelerated courses, mainly DL, but for the structured remote live sessions, how do any of this differ in those types of formats? Do you use breakout rooms? Do you do anything differently from what you've presented today, faculty?
If it's a structured remote, do we call them structured remote? Now I don't remember what we changed. In a structured remote class, I'll typically have breakout rooms. And I find that if you can limit the number of students per breakout room to probably 3, then that produces a more vibrant, interactive conversation among the students. And then I try to jump into each of those breakout rooms as we go through the material. But It is time consuming. So if you're going into each of those breakout rooms, then you're looking at, and you've got a 25-person class, you're probably looking at about 20 minutes or so for discussion. And sometimes that gets a little bit long. So you have to juggle, what's the most important, but.
I taught an early college course, Biology 101 course last semester, and they were really good students. Of course, I had breakout rooms for each lab and sometimes for lecture. I think I remember one sort of like telling everybody that I was going to let him work for about 15 minutes and not come back later and check on everybody. When I came back and checked on the breakout rooms, there was one room that became a gaming room. Someone was actually sharing their screen and showing how they were playing a particular game. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here, right? So you do have to check frequently to see that they're actually working.
Agreed. Now, we're on the note of breakout rooms. I do want to ask the students, Anna and Lucy, what are your thoughts about breakout sessions in these courses?
For me personally, I think the breakout rooms makes us students get to know each other, and it kind of creates a safe space for us to talk without our professors and just voice out our opinions and probably just have discussions on how we think the class is going on. But I think it's kind of like teamwork, so it gets us some teamwork building skills, and yeah, I think it's beneficial for us.
Yeah, I teach microbiology, and apparently breakout rooms is okay, but the only snag that I have about it, based on the course that I'm teaching, microbiology, it's timing. For lectures, we do 50 minutes. That's not enough, but the lab, now that we don't do much of hands up in the lab, we can get that extra time, but it's still very difficult and very challenging. That's the only thing I have about it, but it's a great tool.
Thank you for that perspective. We appreciate that. Anna, did you want to also add on to what your thoughts are of breakout sessions?
Yeah, just kind of to agree with Lucy that sometimes the breakout rooms are kind of help students, you go into a breakout room, so we're without teachers, oh, this is so hard, this assignment, or oh, no, it's easy, and then kind of gives you this validation about other students that they're also thinking it's hard, so you don't feel like, oh, it's just me. It's kind of something nice to have also another student opinion. And also about the assignment. So I had specifically an assignment, a group assignment that was direct learning, so we didn't actually meet in person, which was really hard to make groups and everything. But something that our professor did that I believe it was really helpful, especially when people don't complete their part of assignments, which is it's a case that happens. So this professor required us to, even though we had to submit one assignment, he had a discussion board in which each of us had to post what we did. And we had this one classmate, for example, that didn't post what they had to do. So we had to do it, all the other members, we had to do her part. So we put her name in the PDF at the end of it, because we know we don't want it to be snitches and being a bad person. But then the professor was like, no, but she didn't post it in the discussion board, so that's a 0. And that's something that gives the professor directly knowledge about who's working, even though we're not in face-to-face thing. And I think it was something not nice for the person, but at least the professor knew that all the people who worked it and who didn't work, that's the assignment, which might be hard in a distance learning course where you don't see students working.
I have another question for you two students, Anna and Lucy. Since we heard from many of the faculty panelists about these embedded academic supports for the learning centers, math centers, libraries, we'd love to hear from the two of you. What are your thoughts on that? And how we can, as faculty members, effectively embed that into our courses?
For me personally, what our professor does is she gives us extra credit for going for tutoring, and it motivates students to kind of go for tutoring, because you definitely cannot go for tutoring and just sit there. You have to ask a question or have something to talk about. So our professor will give us probably 2 extra credit points for going for tutoring, and that's what makes students go for tutoring.
Yeah, and with the resources, like I have always said this in many meetings, that I totally love like all the extra resources Montgomery College has for free, like something we take sometimes as granted by students. Like for example, the ATP coaches, like last semester I had Patrick Connor and Tamara Levy in my physics and English class, and like sometimes they're really hard courses, and like sometimes going to your professor, like especially kind of in the physics, and you sometimes don't get it, like with how one person explains it. Then having a second perspective, the same thing with essays, like sometimes you get your professor's feedback, but then you get a second person's feedback. That really helps out to have like two different perspectives, or sometimes you can make it to your professor's office hours, so you have like your coach office hours. So I think that that's something really nice to have, that sometimes students like take for granted, like we don't go to the sessions. And then about the tutoring center, like I think the tutoring center, all the tutors already know my name. Like I've gone so many times into the tutoring center, especially because sometimes I feel uncomfortable about my writing. So this really like gives comfort to students, and like really gives them like the support they need, like to do their assignments, especially with the writing part. Then with the science, I haven't gone to the science center that much as I will say about writing, but I have to say that both of them offer great services, and the fact that professors included like this extra credit or as mandatory attending to a writing session in the tutoring center or things like that really helps out students to really take advantage of these resources, because it really makes a difference, a paper before going to the writing center and after going to the writing center. Like it could be the difference between an A and a B in an English course.
All very good tips. Thank you so much. This has been a phenomenal presentation, in my opinion. I appreciate hearing from the faculty as well as the students. I think we especially love always hearing from students and what you think you need and what you want in order to be successful both inside and outside of the classroom. I think one consistent theme that we've heard across all 5 panelists' presentations is how important that Start Here module is. Be very comprehensive, be very clear in your expectations, lay out what you would like the students to do and engage in throughout the semester. Be very clear in your syllabus, because our expectations evolve over time. So just make sure that your syllabus and other materials are very clear in that. With that, I am actually going to end my portion of the event, but I will say one more thing. A lot of you are asking some very good questions about how can I learn more about this? How can I learn more about that? The rest of this afternoon, we'll have elite workshops for various things. So please take a look at the professional development opportunities that are being offered. Make sure that you sign up on MC Learns via Workday to get the Zoom links. On that note, I would love to hand this over now to our Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Sanjay Rai.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shinta, for organizing such a wonderful, wonderful panel. These are the issues that we are facing during the remote instruction. And what I see is some really innovative, wonderful practices. What we need to do is to make sure that we share this with our other colleagues. Very, very impressive listening to Anna and Lucy, our students. I tell you, you can teach some of these classes. You should be our student ambassadors or learning assistants in these kind of professional development activities. Our faculty, Lauren, LaKisha, and my friend Aubrey, it's really, really great to see what you're doing with the students. And I can't underestimate making our student support activities more visible. Our embedded coaching, ATPA coaching, learning centers, they were part of SRT training. And we hear from students now that how important that is. Just to let all of you know, especially to students, that we are looking at our Blackboard data. And we are seeing when you are doing your homework. And we are seeing that you are doing your homework on Sunday evening, Saturday afternoons. We see very high Blackboard logins by students at that time. So going forward, which is good, it's very good. So what we want to do is we want to make sure learning centers and embedded coaching, ATPA coaching is available at those times. So it's not that, we are providing these things on some campus on Monday at 2 o'clock, a help session, but you are actually doing your homework at home on Sunday afternoon. So instead of asking you to go to campus, how can we provide you support when you need it and where you need it, right? So a lot of work is being done behind the scenes to make sure that you have this support available online, at home, when you are actually working on your coursework. So great learning experience, and I'm so delighted. And certainly Dr. Mills, our leader, he keeps bringing these wonderful platforms where we can share our ideas and learn from each other. Thank you very much, and have a great semester.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, and thank you to the panelists. Wow, you guys were phenomenal. I had mentioned to the panelists as we were preparing for this discussion, especially I was telling the faculty that you're going to have great things to say, but the stars of this show will be Lucy and Anna, and they were. They did a phenomenal job. But LaKisha, Aubrey, and Lauren, your contributions, your tips were so well received. And,
you should hire them.
I'm trying to hire all of them. But please take a look at the chat if you haven't already done that. Your comments were so well received. We will stick around after this panel, if anyone has any questions. There's been a lot of comments asking about the recording, and all of the sessions today will be recorded and placed on the Elite website. We have a section off of the website called the Hub, which is a list of resources for teaching and learning. The links will be provided there, and we'll let people know through Inside MC how to get that recording and what those links are. So again, thank you. We hope you'll join us back here using the same link if you haven't already registered for 11 o'clock. There's going to be a wonderful panel discussion on having conversations centered around social justice. Again, that will be a faculty and staff panel. So you'll get both perspectives at the same time. Thank you to everyone, and I hope you have a great semester.